Welcome to everyone who is here. Welcome to everyone who is going to be seeing this later on. My name is Stacy Dyson, and I am the lead poet, interestingly enough, and the founder of Tesoro, which was created for protecting, creating, and maintaining safe spaces for women who work in words to do their work. Welcome so much to our third anniversary special. Because quite honestly, I got to tell you, there were times I didn't think we'd be able to hang on this long. But apparently, the Lord has more in mind for us than I had in mind for us when we got started. So we will be doing these shows every single Sunday in May. Tesoro owns this month. We own every month. We're just making it more obvious right now. We have today, I say at the beginning of all of our shows, we are so blessed to have, we are beyond blessed to have the lineup that we have today. These are some of the most incredible voices on the planet. Ladies, give yourselves a mad round of applause. There you go. Because false modesty has no place here. So we're going to go ahead and get started right away. And I want y'all to welcome to the mic the one, the only, Kelly McAllister.
Hello, hello. It's always daunting to be the one that starts it off. But I've picked a bit of a grab bag for us today, bookended with two longer pieces and then a series of smaller pieces. And yes, Shocky is popping off in the chat, which is what Shocky does. So feel free to feed this particular troll because they are delightful and I adore them. Okay, so to start, I want to do a relatively new piece called Friendmity. It started with ice cream, of all things. She tells me that nothing tastes as good as skinny feels. I tell her that that's a weird favorite flavor of ice cream. She says she would go crazy without exercise, that I should try it sometime. I ask her why she thinks I haven't. She just extols the virtues of the Stairmaster. I wish that I had said that I am already crazy and that the pills I take for my crazy make my metabolism crazier, and I don't think I can climb my way out of this. Instead, I just say, Stairmaster, I didn't realize the gym was so kinky. She asked me to go shopping with her. What she means is come with me while I shop. We visit store after store that does not carry my size. She tries on outfit after outfit while I look at an awful lot of scarves. I buy none of them. I don't think I'm a scarf person. But by the fifth store, I decide that I do want a scarf to strangle myself with. When she sees my new bikini, she calls me brave. I ask her why. She just gapes at me like a fish. I try to toss a chip into her mouth, but I miss. Unprompted, she tells me that it's all about intermittent fasting these days. I tell her that fasting is such a misnomer, that nothing makes time move slower than hunger. She asks what I know about hunger. I confess that it is my constant companion, that it pulses inside me like a second heart, that it never abates, never diminishes, that I am an empty vessel that never feels full. She looks like she does not believe me. She may say something else, but I cannot hear her over my hunger. My mouth is full of words that I'm too scared to say. She tells me she feels fat today, pats her flat stomach. I grab handfuls of my fleshy belly and say, huh, weird, me too. She looks at my lunch and tells me she could never eat that. I tell her she just isn't trying hard enough. But with enough practice, anything is possible. See, I can be nice too. She asks if I've ever thought about Ozempic. I tell her I have, that I am, that it makes me vomit, that it's like a medically supervised eating disorder. She says, but it works though, right? I say, yes. She tells me I have such a pretty face. I say thank you. She waits for me to return the complimentary volley, but my pretty face and I do not. I haven't seen you in ages, she gushes, feathering her hands on my back in a sort of hug that doesn't require her body to actually touch my body. It has, I agree without regret. We should grab coffee sometime, she says. I ask if she's allowed to drink coffee these days. She laughs and winks. I don't get the joke. We never do get that coffee. What a tragedy. So that is the first one. And now we have a series of slightly interconnected shorter pieces. This is Shotgun. I wonder if you can pick up on the theme, that will follow. I rode shotgun on all your bad decisions. Wind in my hair in the passenger seat as we careened around curves in your unquenchable quest for love, knowing even then that my love was not the love you were looking for, that my love was never going to be enough. But oh, how I loved you. I grew up in that seat, an unwitting co-pilot while we took hairpin turns at breakneck speeds trying to outrun your demons. We never made it. They simply took possession of us both, an ignominious inheritance. And when we'd crash the car, we'd get a new one. And when the therapist said I had valid concerns, we'd get a new one. And when I became too hard to share a home with, you got a new one. Is it my trauma talking when I say that sometimes I miss getting to ride up front? At least then I knew you couldn't leave me behind. This next one is also a little baby. She's called Orchestrated Rage. She, a saxophone, played with a dry reed, strident, frantic. I, a tuba, sporadically punctuating the melody, low and sulky. Our song crescendos, blaring and shrieking, plaintive and pleading, a final limp honk hangs in the sudden silence. I pray there will be no reprise. She begins an encore no one called for. This next one is an oldie. I wrote it in a Ray Jane workshop ages and ages ago, but it's still a favorite of mine. Yes, shout out to Ray Jane workshops through cycles. You can find them on Eventbrite, and they are always delightful. This is called My First Heartbreak Was My Mother. It is a duplex poem. My first heartbreak was my mother when she chose them over me, chose him over me, moved a stranger into my home. When a stranger moved into my home it ceased to be. And when my home had ceased to be, I packed up to find my own. I packed up, I found my own. I learned to ration out my groceries, slowly rationed out my groceries, filled my stomach with my anger. With a stomach filled with anger, my first heartbreak was my mother. All right, we come to our penultimate poem, my favorite word, penultimate. This is Anvil. The past is past. What is done cannot be undone. A song once sung is forever on the tongue. But we both have choices of what we will now become. You have chosen to apologize, the kind that is an offering, the kind that is smithed in the fire of your regret, pounded on an anvil of humility and gifted freely without strings or caveats. I remind you that repentance is a practice, a practical act, a promise. You may give me a flashy ring forged of your regret, but please remember that a ring is an infinite thing. Sorry is just a word. It's action that cures the sting. I always feel weird reading that one because my Canadian accent comes out real strong on the sorries. Yep, sorry guys. Sorry about that. And that brings us to our final poem. Is this how democracy dies? You say you are colorblind, and I believe you. I do. Because you can't seem to tell the difference between the green and red hues, hitting the gas when you should reach for the brake, unconcerned with whose life you could take, speeding through intersections without intersectionality. You say it isn't about hate, and I believe you, I do. But hate isn't the only enemy of love. There's apathy too. The ability to turn away from the problems of the day, downplay the vitriolic wordplay because you want a new way and you know that you are not in the way of the danger that you let stay. You say we need to come together, and I agree with you. Oh, I do. But what does that look like to you? Because you speak about me and the people I hold dear from a place of fear. Expect us to disappear the parts of us that you find too dark or too queer. You try to justify this calumny that we see with our own eyes, and I can't tell if you believe these lies or just blindly ascribe to your party lines. Is this how democracy dies? At the hands of bilious billionaires held up by the very people they are holding down? Grocery prices already too high again, about to soar, eating even more of the little paid to the working poor, the same ones you convinced to vote away their very rights, told them DEI was the blight. Forget Beauty and the Beast, that's the tale as old as time. When the powerful's great crime is turning the gaze of the powerless to their neighbors in the breadline. Convince us to fight amongst ourselves. These billionaire cartels aren't even making up new spells. All of this to say that I am scared. But I still know one hard truth, and that is that hate will not save us. That's what you're trying to do. Do not misunderstand. I do not mean to love the ignorance. I only preach the strength of a love that defies our difference. All I can do is stretch the bounds of my compassion, my empathy, my sphere, and recognize that underneath your violence is a very real fear. But fire doesn't extinguish fire, it only feeds the flames. So I won't play your games. We've been down this road before, but it just means we know the route. We've already been under this boot. So you shouldn't be surprised when we don't fall in line and follow your cowardly suit. Let's not get caught up in the squabble of minutia and what's probable, but aim to collectively dream of what healing is possible. The resistance must be one of love, and it's not too late to join us. Just swallow your pride and open your eyes. And if you won't, well, I hope you don't choke on those lies. And that is it for me. Looking forward to who comes next.
Y'all open up your mics, throw this lady some major roses.
Woo!
That was amazing.
Kelly!
I just
Kelly!
Yes,
And
Kelly.
Love it,
hair.
honey.
Just look at the hair.
Absolutely loved it.
Opener. Opener.
Okay, about to hit the mic next. Please give a mad welcome to Victory.
Hello. Hi. Today I decided to do I write more than love poetry. I write mostly other stuff, but today I decided to just focus on some different aspects of love poems. This first one is that crush. When you have that crush, that crush that you get a little choked up when they walk into the room and you don't know what to say and they have no idea and you do not want them to have an idea. I'm trying to stand still, trying to keep my smile casual, trying to keep my eyes relaxed, afraid he will hear my heart jumping up and down on my trampoline stomach. It wants his attention. I want it to pipe down. Crazy little bitten apple in my chest. I whirl to his verbal waltz. I don't think he even knows I'm dancing. Does he notice how I covet his glances? I collect them like shells on a beach, gather them, but have little idea what to do with them when I get home. His eyes meet mine, and something in me rises like the wind. This hurricane of hope is leaving a devastation of reason in its path, and I would rally a recovery, but I'm lost in the darkness of his eyes. What muscles move eyes like that can move me too? Me, a wall of pretense breached. He is a grenade. I am a nicely stacked architecture turned to rubble. It's because he talks like that, looks like that, moves like that, like he's a fire. You know how fires move? unapologetically forward. He moves like that, and I am singed. He decorates my imagination, floor to ceiling, wall to wall, an uproar of passion clashing with my interior design. My face is a quiet kitten smile, but I am noisy inside with questions. I want to know your weakness, what you worry about. Where are the wounds that fear leaves as it makes its way? I want to know what you fear that you are smaller than. Then maybe I could tell you you are large to me. My big secret, the one that turns to taffy in my mouth. What would you do if you knew that the gate to my fantasies opens to a field in which you are my mental playground equipment? The sweat of my palms runs through its creases like a river that washes away any thoughts of actually telling you. So all I can do is hope that you will stand too close to me someday, and we will both turn into smoke. Mhm. All right, let's see if my voice is up for this one today. A different aspect of love, rather sad. Rumble thunder, rain come tumbling down. Don't care about no fever. Don't care about muddy ground. This ain't no 40 days and 40 nights kind of a rain. This is a who knows when the pain's gonna end kind of a rain. No rainbow promises the end kind of rain. Only a broken heart would send this kind of rain, and I'm drowning. He says he doesn't love me. So here it comes. My own hellacious downpour. Tumbling down. Bring on the bad storm. Drown and drench this blue soul through and through so that I'll know better next time. Won't get so damn full of the moon next time. And I'll remember next time that sometimes forever isn't nearly as long as you think it's going to be. See, I remember him smiling, looking down at me before he started looking down on me. The way cruel hearts do once they realize that you really do love them unconditionally. So the motherfucker doesn't have to do a thing right anymore. No. No good narcissistic lovers thinking tears are just water like diamonds are just stone. Knowing nothing better, they'll get away with murder before they go away altogether. This is what I gotta remember. That you can't love somebody into loving you back. And you can't just put more of your own heart into the equation, make what they lack. And just because you want something so bad you can taste it, don't mean jack. It's like those daisy petals. Remember? He loves me, he loves me not. If you want to know we're going to come out in the end, baby, all you got to do, count those petals first. See what you got. It's not just the cruel hearts, but we fools too who are true authors of the blues. This is what I got to remember. So I'm making a bargain with that dark sky tonight to bring on the bad storm and drown me. Bring on the bad storm and drench me. Bring on the bad storm and drown me and drench me and teach me a lesson that I won't so soon forget. You can crash down lightning, just light my way back home, where I've got nothing but you waiting for me by my window all alone. And let's see. On a happy note, land on a happy note. This is have you ever been with one of those? Yes, everybody has met those guys that have relationship issues. That is like, let's just let's not put a label on it. They have a real trouble with that 4-letter word love. It's like, And what's really cool, if we've all met one of those, have you ever flipped one of them? This is like, you can't say it, and now I can. All right. I get heavy with you. All those broken, crooked pieces of you, I will love you whole. Fill the gaps and cracks with gold, but you can't call it love. So call it wow. Call it water in the desert. Call it gravity that way it pulls. Call it song. Call it broken promises mended by defiant, unstoppable fury. Call it a lesson in reincarnation. Call it a lesson in forgiveness. Call it, oh fuck. Call it, I can't stop. Call it, don't stop. Call it by my name. Call it the most frightening thing you've ever seen, then kiss it on the mouth. Call it the plow that splits the dry earth open, ready for seed. Call it your favorite thing. Call it weed. Call it rescue and escape when everything gets to be too much or not enough. Call it there for you. Call it from the other side of the planet, long distance in the middle of the night. Call it a conversation. Call it a conversation in a Tarantino movie. Call it Clarence in Alabama. Call it a loaded gun. Cupid packing a semi-automatic, letting loose a hailstorm of bullets and razor-sharp valentines. Call it unlikely. Call it impossible. Call it no, 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 no. Call it yes. Call it yesterday and tomorrow. Call it once upon a time there was a boy without a Christmas. Call it a gift. Call it I see you. Call it eyes red filled with pool water. Call it I know you. Call it once upon a time there was a girl who lost her eyesight in a poker game when they called her bluff, but somehow how she still stumbled across you. Call it pretty, even when it's a mess. Call it what it is, a mess. Call it a message, scrawled on the palm of your hand, smudged beyond recognition, but clearly important. If you could only read it, if you could only remember. Call it by another lover's name other than yours. Call it stay and go and wait. Call it worth every minute. Call it art. Call it Michelangelo. Not the artist, but the Ninja Turtle. Call it silly. Call it orgasm followed by a high five and a fist bump. Call it victory. Call it surrender. Call it anything you want. Don't call it what you can't. It doesn't matter what you call it. It beats on just the same. Call it insane. Call it magic. A spell cast by Screamin' Jay Hawkins and Nina Simone on a hot, dirty night while the skyline watches us on a rooftop. I put a spell on you. No, don't call it love. Call it what you will. Doesn't change a thing. Thank you.
Y'all open up your mics. Throw this woman some applause.
That was great.
Call the
Singing his soul
storm
system.
down. Call the
Singing
storm down.
amazing.
Heck yeah.
Felt that singing in my bones, child. That was gorgeous.
Okay, this is a little bit more fun than I had planned to have this morning. It's working for me. Coming next to the mic. Give it up for Marianne.
All right. Well, I was just relaxing into the program and thinking that I was a little further down the list, but I will just step up. I am really delighted to be here today, and I would like to read a few poems that I was inspired to read um, actually because of today's slate of poets. And I was thinking of something that Whisper Poet once said to me, and that was how she had commented that I often put myself into scenes as if a woman or a young girl in different times and places. So I guess we can call this this set Other Women. And I'll start with a poem called Lalibela that was inspired by a BBC documentary I was watching. It was not for me to enter the holy ground that felt the steps of Christ, but I was proud to be among the chosen to bring that city to life in the rolling hills where my fathers and sons lived their days. I often hear you say it could not have been that we shaped those 11 marvels with simple taps of hammers and chisels and the carrying of endless buckets of basalt in the lifetime of one king. But just as his vision was foretold by the bees that surrounded his mother at his birth, so we were moved by the understanding shared by artists who give new shape to paper, stone, clay, or even air in all times and places. They say Michelangelo carved until he released the inherent truth from his marble. We did our work to the glory of God, equally sure in the knowledge that the angels stood by our side. Here's a piece that I was invited to write while I lived on the island of St. Martin in the Caribbean. It was written to commemorate the 160th anniversary of emancipation in the Dutch Caribbean, and it's called Wedding Day. I do not long for a white dress, lace sewn in pretty webs by spidery hands that squinted into cold dawn as they worked the needle. That is reserved for Mistress Alice. I do not crave a gold band to shine like my husband's eyes, even on moonless nights, for I have worn a yellow bracelet that bound my body to other men, and it clings to my bones. When the sun sets, old Tom and Treetop will hold the broom as I jump, but my father will not greet me in the headband and breastplate of skin handed down to him from his grandfather, and I will not smile with secret pride that the family of my husband offers so many brown and red cows for me. I will take my spoon and pumpkin seeds spared from the vine last summer and move into my husband's cabin with the Orishas who guarded my birth, not the God they want us to think will ease our pain when we die. And I will bring to him all the love I have tonight, and tonight I will be his bride. The next poem was inspired by images of beautiful red leather boots found in a Scythian mound in Siberia. We saw the heat desiccate the summer sky and winter snow crack the spiny trees of the high plains we called home, but we have nothing to tell you we had been, not even the prints of our beloved goats, nor the impressions of our proud horses. If you had crouched with us beside the smoky fire as we gnawed our furtive meals, you surely would have envied the fine red felt that clad our feet and the black glass beads that shone from our soles. If you had cowered as our hurricane warriors blew terror as if from a fearsome bellows through your hapless village, you might have taken a glint of geometric gold to your own final resting place. In the end, you know us only by the legends that have come to you from Greek and Persian pens, and in the way we surrounded ourselves with crafts and adornments to beautify our everlasting lives in the way they had so little time to do through the days in which we rode toward harsh and inevitable death. The next piece was inspired by a reading about the great burial of ships at a site called Sutton Hoo in the UK, and it's called Crimson Moon. In those days, we did not know the things you know. We thought the The crimson moon was dying of sorrow because the king had gone back to the celestial sea. When we knew his time was near, we traveled for 3 days and nights to find our solace in the ancient grove. There, we implored the great spirits of the oak and the one he called his savior, because we loved him and knew that is what he would have wanted, to help us fell the mightiest tree for his final vessel, in which he would sail from this world into paradise, guided by the bright star of hope. After more than a millennium, you say the captain of that great ship no longer rests in the acidic earth. You know him only as a legendary flicker in the hearts of man. You will only ever know him as a shadow in the sand. This poem was written when I read a story by a writer at my alma mater, Carleton University in Ottawa, Ontario, Canada. And it was a piece of journalism about Douglas Cardinal, a First Nations architect here in Canada, and his work with the Cree Nation in northern Quebec. I am so young. I am much younger than our land and the old ways of Cree people. I do not remember a time before we built our houses in an arc above the shore, believing in the rainbows that pierced the clouds atop the gentle aspens after the summer rains. I do not remember a time before the last time they came with their punishing machines to flatten the homes of my father, my grandfather, and his brothers, as if 8 times were not already enough. They said our land was too valuable for us because of what is buried beneath our feet and worn by the bears, beavers, and spruce at home in the country we share. They did not understand that our land is too valuable to scrape clean, for every day we mine memories there and speak in voices that sound to them like only falling logs and dollar signs. As we raise our stories to the stars, now I know only the lake whose shining eyes follow mine wherever I look in every weather, and I am still, even within a storm. We no longer walk for weeks to meet our neighbors, yet we gather where we are rooted, sheltered inside thick grass walls that slope toward the big water and open to the sky, just as we have done for 5,000 years. Sometimes I am glad it is still my time to be young. I wrote this next piece in April for World Indigenous Day, and it celebrates what is believed to have been the first Viking community or landing in North America at a place in Newfoundland, Canada, called Lanceau Meadows. Only once I met him, that boy who must have seen just a few more winters than me. When my father took his rest after his days at the forge, and my mother had no more thread for me to wind beside the fire, I loved to walk among the lindens and hunt for the tender fruit I knew would come with the sun in the time of long shadows. As I topped the grassy hill that overlooked our huts beside the cove, I saw the boy with locks bound on his head like mooring lines and skin as warm as butternuts. He must have found me strange, with my braids the color of autumn straw and cheeks flecked with spots that grew bigger every summer. Yet his smile opened to show his teeth like the snowy shells I loved to gather on the beach. Even when the elders met in the fire glow to speak of their days and explorations in this sometimes harsh and always new land, I never told another soul that we had pressed our palms together in a gesture of both greeting and parting. But I knew the world could be small and warm if only we would allow ourselves to know it. The next piece is one that I that I really enjoyed writing. It's based on an article I happened to find in English in a publication called The New Arab, and it is inspired by the story of the 10th century Syrian astronomer Mariam al-Astrulabi, and I had the pleasure of having this poem nominated for Best of the Net by McQueen's Quinterly. It's called Astrolabe. Before I became a girl whose gaze searched for infinity, I walked with my father in the fragrant market, fingers interwoven like the knots of my mother's rug, eyes carefully fixed on the corrugated street, that I would not lose my way among the spires that sliced the clouds. Maybe you don't know. My father named me for the sea and the ancient river that cradle the once shining city of my birth. Among all the drops that fill the oceans of the world, I always knew I was beloved, for I was allowed to hold the universe in my hands and look beyond the circumscribed fate of those who would become our daughters, toward the place where you can read my name indelibly written among the stars. I am coming to the end in a moment here, but I'd like to read stories for two other women who also are very meaningful to me. First, a poem for my daughter Julia, who some of you know was grievously injured in a motorcycle accident in February of 2024 and has recovered fully. This was written days after I encountered her in after surgery in Panama. It's called Please. I cannot resist the urge to comb my fingers through her hair, run my palm across a stubbly lawn to sift through a robin's nest filled with earth-toned memories, equal parts sand, blood, and L'Oreal, more Honey Thacker than Anna Scott. I stand and sway to the techno beat of life-giving machines, grateful to give her this simple gift. She rouses and murmurs, "Mama, you keep pulling my hair." I choose to think I hear her say, "Please," and I hold fast to each striated strand as her tendrils vine ever closer around my heart. The penultimate poem honors my sister. I am a moonchild of July, and her totem animal is raven. And after she sent me a beautiful photograph with each of those, I wrote this for her. "Moon," said Raven, "you are the ride or die, never the star, always the supporting player, yet all eyes turn to you in love and extremity as you mirror the vast beauty, hope, and possibility that surround you with ever new expressions of healing and delight. I am born to break away, to fill the sky with ebony music, restless, powerful, and proud. My intelligence inspires warriors as they gird themselves for battle. Too soon, I become the dark omen and a gathering of my kind and unkindness. They do not know what I know. We are just the same, you and I, outsiders, outliers, otherworldly. You are everywhere with me. And finally, for the Iranian organization of the same name, I'd like to share a poem that is coming in the Goddess anthology, the Beat anthology coming soon. And this is called Woman, Life, Freedom. I am only one small child in a clan of women who have preserved all we know since the beginning of time, in the way we move our hands and hips and the path our hair carves through the breeze. In other times and more forgiving places, my sisters freed their fingers of rings that bind them in unquestionable subservience and loosed their milk to flow at bus stops, beaches, and classrooms that welcome them with my nieces and nephews in their arms. Yet we still fight for freedom of life, For even after thousands of journeys of the moon since our prophets walked our hallowed hills, I am not yet my own when I leave my Father's home or bring my howling legacy into the world, but only when my spirit folds my lifeless arms across my chest and departs this plane for the last time. Thank you so much, Poet Sisters. I appreciate your support and the opportunity. Stacy, thanks to you to be here today.
Mad applause for this poet.
Yeah.
Open up your mics.
Gorgeous, gorgeous work.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
Marianne, what
Tanda,
a
ready. Yeah,
feast.
Tanda. Hey, hey.
What a feast. It was beautiful and brilliant. Ah, thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Okay, coming up next on the mic, the kitten whisperer herself, Whisper Poet. Give it up, y'all.
Kitten whisperer. I like that, Stacy. I like that. I'm so glad to be here with all of you today, and just mad props for the words of my sisters. You are all inspiring and amazing, and I am honored to be here. So thank you. This first piece is called Loved by the Sun, and this will be the opening poem in the manuscript that I'm working on called The Velvet Flower. The bud, so tender, turns its delicate petals towards the sun, such eager flesh to soak up the joyful rays. The sun can no more restrain its exuberance than the moon can shine alone, and the sun's bliss is the bud's ecstasy. Sinuous stalk arises, and the bud blooms to blossom, replete. Lush and fragrant and loved by the sun, she dances for him, her petals unfurled for his pleasure and her delight. This next poem is called The Goodbye I Needed. I said goodbye. I did the things to wrap it up and seal it tight, hugged you to me, gave you wind for your ragged wings. I believe feathers can heal, and your eagle was never designed to be held by a tether. You chose me, and I needed you. So many convergences, so many synergies, so many dovetails of what you are to me and who I am to you. We are we, and have been on many branches of this tree. We keep passing in this hallway, meeting on the train, and before sunrise, we always know that we have found each other again. And your voice, it hurt my heart to see you so broken. I wanted to breathe love into each of those wounds. But just as you chose to find me, I had to release you. And I knew it was the right thing. We are karmic, but our intersection in this existence was mapped out for different directions. And we each have many miles to go. But your voice, I remember those hours on the phone when your heart spoke to me in words held behind the dialogue of trembling tongues hoping for the Holy Grail. I saw your heart, and I knew my name was tattooed there by an artist older than time. You didn't need to spell it out. I felt it deeper than the words that came from your mouth, and your voice delivered it sweeter than angels' wings can fly. The trust you gave me to share those wounds, it was a gift dearer than the love you paint. And the love isn't gone. I hold it in the secret chamber in the back of my mind, along with your voice, and I know it wasn't our time to fly in tandem. I had so much to tell you, so much I wanted to share. There was so much you needed to whisper in my ear. I needed to breathe in your space one more time. Absorb one more lungful of that rarefied air. My greed desires you here for more than just a single heartbeat. Call me avarice. I will wear that label in exchange for the flavor of one more kiss. Make it hello and not goodbye, and let it last a long time. Eternity is too short for what I dreamed with you. And it started with morning coffee on my mama's porch, crisp air and mountain view. I don't know what comes next. I don't know if and when we may ever again intersect, but I will know you by your voice, and you will know mine when you hear me whisper, I have loved you across the great divide of time. This next one I wrote on Mother's Day a few years ago, and so I felt it really appropriate with Mother's Day coming up, and this is one I love to share. This is The Morning Glory. I am a weed grown from the root of my family tree, heartwood strong and born from the DNA of the women who toiled and bled and pulled life from the soil of the gardens they planted to keep us fed and rooted in the knowledge of who we are and where we come from. Weeds abide when everything else gives up and dies. Try to chop us from the ground, but we go deep, and the roots of us are all around. I am a tree born from the seeds of love that my mother's mother's mother planted into the chromosomal plasma of my existence. Their recipes of love and life tattooed on the lining of my veins. My blood pumps with the wisdom they bequeathed. From the rich black soil of my grandmother's garden, my bones grew long. This ancestral ground made me strong. It is the refuge where I gave witness to my own failures and crimes. And when I fell and broke my own heart, tore it to shreds, I cast it into that garden of my ancestors' love, sure that it was dead and beyond hope. But DNA doesn't lie, and their ashes gave rise to the flower weed that survived, a pink petal phoenix bathed in the dew of my mother's tears. I am the morning glory in my grandmother's garden. This ancestral gift is my foundation. It is my armor and salvation, my lifeline and my destination. I am the daughter of my mother and the mother of my daughter. I am a warrior descended from wise women. My roots are strong and woven into the ancient melody of our crone song. And one day, the daughter of my daughter will find her strength in our garden. She will dig her toes into our generational dirt and feel the branches of our tree sheltering her. And there, among the bones of her matriarchal line, the morning glory will bloom and she will shine. And my final poem, I'm going to read it first to you in English, and then for some random reason, I decided to translate it into Spanish. So I'm going to read you the English version first and the Spanish version second. This will be the final poem of the manuscript that I shared with you a moment ago, and this one is called Dandelion Bones. Shoulders, cold without the loving embrace of the sun. The withered bloom mourns the loss of her ruby glory. Crepe paper petals, veined and matte, she remembers her velvet shimmer. She remembers her sun's seduction. A coquette to tease the bee, the sweet shimmy of youth now an aged shuffle. Her memories fierce among the bones of the dandelions. And this is the Spanish version. Hombros fríos sin el amoroso abrazo del sol. La flor marchita llora la perdida de su gloria rubí. Pétalos de papel crepe veteados y mate. El recuerdo su brillo aterciopelado. El recuerdo su seducción al sol. Una coqueta para provocar a la bella. El dulce movimiento de la juventud ahora es un barajar embellecido. Sus recuerdos feroz entre los huesos del diente de león. Thank you.
Absolutely beautiful. Y'all open up your mics, give it up for Whisper Poet.
Welcome
Woo!
back, sister. Welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
On the mic next is probably one of the bravest poets I know. Y'all, mad applause for Noelia Serna.
Well, don't make me cry before I start, Stacey. Damn. So I have 4 poems for you guys. 2 from my book from Black Lawrence Press, and then 2 new ones that I'm manifesting into a second collection. So I always like to start my readings with this poem called Love Letter to the Immigrant. Yes, you. The one holding fragments of an evaporating language beneath your tongue, crossing oceans so your children can break barriers instead of soil. To the mother, tucking pieces of her native tongue into her children's backpacks. To the father, trading master's degrees for chicken plants. To the children, entering classrooms in a country that does not like natural hair or curls. They will call you ugly. Try to wrap your identity within a slur, build cages around you, call you illegal, make fun of your accent and skin color. Remember, when they try to break you, how your ancestors carried the same skin tone, how you are still beautiful. Do not let them steal the language from your throat. They will try to convince you that tongues cannot carry 2 languages, but remember, your accents are landmarks, reminders of the homes left behind. Remember, every piece of identity you keep is a connection to home and to those that came before. Remember that seeds do not concern themselves with how deeply they've been planted. They simply take root and bloom. So my second piece is a new piece. It doesn't have a title yet. Here we go. The enemy is never the human. The enemy is the alcohol. Sometimes it is hard to separate the two, and tonight he is slamming doors and screaming again. My daughter, my wide-eyed wonder of a 1-year-old girl, watches my face, lip already beginning to tremble. I clap my hands to the sound of the slamming door and start a game of patty cake. She looks confused and smiles. I paint a smile over my own trembling lip, splash joy across my fear. Now, every time the door slams, I begin to clap. Every time she and I play, I raise my voice in play screams, let her squeal and listen to it echo across the living room. Teach her to make a game out of the things I am afraid of. Tell her everything is okay as my own heart somersaults into my throat. Tonight, she laughs herself to sleep, smiles as she dreams, and I pull her against my chest, prepare for another night of not sleeping to make sure she stays safe, to make sure the animals stay safe, to make sure I am awake enough to protect, make sure I am awake enough to run if tonight is the night we need to. Somewhere, a mother claps to cover the sounds of bombs, and I pretend to be asleep, curled protectively around her tiny body as the screaming grows louder and the door slams make the walls shake. So many mothers can turn blood into the beginnings of a rainbow, learn to say the explosion was just the sun jumping rope, the thick smoke a cloud, paint flowers out of shrapnel, make beauty out of whatever fresh hell man has to offer. So I'll read the other new poem here in between. This is the most recent one that I wrote, and it was for the 30 for 30 in April, and it's called I of You. My daughter says I love you for the first time, and the constant whirring and noise of anxiety and worry in my mind goes silent. The only echo, the silent I of you in her tiny little voice. And how could this not be the truest love I have ever known? She is of me. She is my own flesh and blood. How we are all made of each other when we add love to the mix. How I am made of the love of the friend that suggested a bell hooks book because she knew it would help me. How she offered to read the book with me because she knew it was the only sure way to get me to read it, overcome the violence. How she was the constant whisper telling me that I was a person and what was happening to me was abuse. And while she knew my spirit was too broken to know I didn't deserve abuse, she knew I could agree that no person deserves abuse. Because isn't that love? Finding our way through the concrete of someone's armor and blooming in the cracks, creeping into someone's brokenness and creating beauty. How I am made of the friend that sat with me through my first AA meeting, understanding how I couldn't say I was an alcoholic, but knew I needed to change. How they gifted me their presence while I cried the guilt and shame out of my system. How my sobriety I owe in part to them. How I am made of the friend that tells me they are excited to see me, that messages me to ask if I will write 30 poems in April with them. The friend that listened to me cry while lying on the floor of the bathroom the night before my book was released and said, I understand. I see you. How I am made of their kindness. How I am made of the people that remind me of my humanity, of my power, of my beauty, of my worthiness. My daughter says, I of you, and I of her too. I have so many people and they of me, and maybe this is how the world heals. Quiet flowers blooming in the broken places, making the pain of being human more manageable. One blossom, one tender green tendril reaching towards the light at a time. And then I guess my last poem, I'll end with the second one in the book. When my white female colleague calls me angry during a DEIA work meeting on Zoom, all I can think about is the plane ride. My hand grasping the hand of my father as the plane soars above the clouds. I am 7 and wearing a bow in my hair. The kind that's big and colorful, the kind you can't miss, the one my mother carefully wove into my braid. Under his breath, my father hums Nino Bravo's song America, the one which translated says that when God thought of Eden, he thought of America. I think about my mother, those early days trying to teach my father English, trying to explain to him all the rules that don't make sense, how his tongue sounded heavy against the politeness of the language he tried so hard to cradle in his mouth. I remember how elementary school was the last time my throat ever held my accent, how people at church would tease him because his 3 sounded like tree. Maybe that's why all I notice is how whiteness barks. I think about that day we went back to visit Nicaragua, how I caught a glimpse of myself in the mirror inside a shoe vendor's tent as we walked through the open air market. The day I was wearing that skirt and the bright red off the shoulder blouse with the flower embroidery and the zipper up the back, my curly hair braided down one shoulder. How I started to cry because while I looked like a local in the mirror, I had never felt like more of a stranger to my own reflection, and I couldn't remember the last time I'd lied to a mirror. I think about my mother's recipes, the ones she tried to teach me during the years when all I cared about was fitting into whiteness. How I never learned a single one. How I envy the Latina girls that know our dances, the Latinos with their own inside jokes they tell themselves in Spanish only because I never knew it was okay to rebel. I never knew it was okay to cling to the remnants of my culture. How I haven't been back home in over 10 years. How I have a degree in English and still have cashiers at Walmart ask me questions slowly and loudly. I think about the ways I have made my brown body small, how whiteness requires you to fold to the point of breaking and then faults you for the shattered pieces, how the last white boy told me every day that I was intimidating, how I learned to fold softness into my words, to look at the ground when I spoke, to hold my arms close to my body, to breathe before opening my mouth. how there are people in this world that I rarely feel safe enough to be angry with, how my anger requires a level of trust, a level of security clearance that most people are not given, how my anger is a privilege most people will never have, how I actually cry when I'm angry, how the volume of my voice they are hearing during this work meeting is my attempt to drown out the terror of being too brown, clawing at my throat. How I wonder if there will ever be a place soft enough for me to just exist. How I wonder where that girl in the mirror is now. If I lost her for good, if it's too late to call her back, if she's still wearing those bright colors, if she still braids her hair, if her three sounds like tree, if she's keeping our accent safe. Thank you.
Open up your mics and throw roses. Oh my word.
Oh, always so powerful. Noelia, you're just so beautiful. I love you so much.
Sensational.
Raw and honest and vulnerable. Thank you.
So coming up next, I just introduced the bravest poet that I know. And now I'm introducing the biggest troublemaker I know. Y'all, please give it up for Ray Jane.
Hi. Me, troublemaker. But of course, thank you. Greetings, my ladies, my women, powerful movers in word. Thank you for sharing of space, the opportunity to be amongst you. Thank you, Stacy, for the invitation as always. Here are a few pieces, some reminders to self. Shout out to Kelly McAllister, who's also always doing amazing poetry workshops. And I have a little evidence of that as well. So you're going to love on me, I'm going to love on you back. And that's how we're going to start this off. So this is from a Kelly workshop from November 14th, 2023. Go ahead, look in the calendar, girl. Okay. It's called Audrey. I stacked everyone on top of me, laid all burdens bare on my chest, devoted my back to weight unheld. I swallowed every scream to survive, draped what was left of the land around my waist to remain fertile. I dug under my boundaries to free everyone else, crowding my peace in the box I committed to instead. I traded dreams for fulfilled curses, shot the light out my own eyes so as not to outshine dim-witted companions. I gave society something to smile at, danced my dance on stilts, terrified an eye might peep how I ascended. Thank you, Kelly. All right. I'm trying to read more of what I write with my hands. So this one has no title. A poem is a flood. Conscientiousness lets it rip, unrelenting, unfinished, the edges of this existence always reeling. Too real in here sometimes, but I hate to stop feeling, don't want numb, just peace. Poetry is now I pray, how I plead, beg future me to beam into this reality and download me this wisdom I need, or at least 4/5 of the winning lottery numbers. I've been a good person, so karma should really keep us rich. I write through every glitch, matrix my emotions and unopened, pull back sometimes just to reveal myself to my own eyes. Without poetry, I have a chance to realize what lies beneath, what lies leave behind, and will what lies bequeath. They've been trying to get me to write about the generational change I was sent to sever. I write to say, fuck that. To say whatever, to be raucous in all the ways the world would rather me silent. I yell, I am loud. With my volume, I am violent. Unknowingly, but also keenly aware. Just gonna roll. I've been taught to hang myself around the neck of a man, dangle among his heartbeats, smelling sweetly but quiet enough not to disturb his natural rhythm. I have been taught to sing instead of scream. No man wants a loud woman unless she is singing his name. I have been taught to disappear, magic, just enough to blend into kitchen walls behind television screens, into women's work. I have been taught where a woman stands as a shadow, far enough behind not to cast any pressure on the future of a man. I have been taught that the race is not for me, not in Boston or any other marathon of men. Glass ceilings can shapeshift, but I, woman, must grow comfort in concrete. Me and me been having it out. We've been hollering and shouting. We've been turning spades tables over. Me gets so downright and dirty, she even lies. Tells me ain't no shine where my eyes used to be. Sometimes I have to silence me. I get to whipping up the most outlandish caricatures. Got my proportions so out of hand, I struggle to hold myself. So sometimes I have to bind myself, burn candles, and bathe in Florida water quietly, listening not to me, but to who really deserves to speak. My love don't lie on me, but requires ritual to rise and define me properly. This body ain't no apology, is no pleading for acceptance, is no need for validity, is aware that no tongue but mine could ever cultivate it properly. Only my mouth could carve me out of my mountains. Speak of how these shoulders catapulted us past unseeing eyes over racks, excluding our hips right past the cocoa butter bends of these elbows and knees. This body be exaltation, belly button be free to whistle to the wind secrets my mama's placenta still sending me. My womb absorbing nettle teas and raspberry bush leaves grow freely from remnants of fibroids. Me and my past relaxer scalp making new growth grass for my ground. Right, I got maybe like 2 more for you. Thank you. My no is a little too much like Gumby. Real bendy, too malleable. Almost feels like it ain't mine for real. Like if I loosen my grip any, it will fly out of my hands, combust into ash. But that also feels like a strange end for my no. When reality usually has it just falling flat, got me quietly like no is too good for me, like I got to wait till Friday to afford it. No acting like a pillow princess, and I'm cramping, making love to it, doing all the work while no yawns. Moves on, complains about how yes has prettier dresses, gives her deeper indentations, better, more solid punctuations. My no keeps complaining that I raised her to be soft. Never gave her the lessons on jiu-jitsu, unprepared to defend me against people, and now I got the nerve to judge what I did not care to cultivate. Yes, my no deserves better. Okay, 2 more and then we're done. Okay. Dividing. My waters are rippling back over these dry bones. Tides rushing at celestial speeds, rising, this ebb also flows. Haste left leagues below, needing to get to the surface of abundance, water in my lungs until I breathe back into limitless of sky. When the moon is high, I howl to my night. The wolves freed in the quarters of my vocality, repeating rhythms remind me to whom I belong, to me. With tenderness and feral ferociousness, especially with talons exposed, I dig, replanting love into my flesh, give myself permission to release. Freedom often preceded by pain, this rebirth, much like the first, is traumatic. White doctors never thought my mother needed an anesthetic. I was born in the midst of a natural bearing, with no water to soften this arrival, this blackness bound in the custody of misery, only made more avid in pursuit of a medical degree. I be healing while doing self-surgery, cutting down to what is true. dismantling all that makes me solely bestial, gnawing through. No iron or silver potent enough to contain me, no cap, no dungeon den enough for this lion. Keep your effeminate. I have enough S's in my mane. Penal institutions lacking enough eyes to get to the center of my intellect, rewinding my sentiments, and still missing that I am not subliminal. But who is to blame when the jailer is you? Gathering my grips, I gainfully unlace my lucidity. In sync, I step with myself out of the state of my mind, begin to will joy to join me on my banks, beckoning the returns. My dividends are multiplying, though daily I am dividing. Thank you.
Open your mics, throw some roses, throw lots of roses. Oh my goodness.
True voice of America. There she is.
Ray Jane, you're stunning. You are epic. I just want to worship at the feet of your poetry and your performance and your presentation. Everything. It's everything.
I think we should all just take a deep breath after that. My word. Okay, coming up next on the mic, I have missed this poet so much. Y'all give it up one time for Gigi.
Hello. It's so good to be back. I don't do a whole lot of features anymore, but whenever Stacy calls, I show up. So here we are. Alrighty. So I have like maybe around like six-ish poems. So I'm just gonna get right into it. Yeah, I talk a lot about grief because I lost both my parents, but I stopped performing after my mom had passed away. So yeah, this first one is called Quiet. I'm searching for a word under altars in church parking lots. What do you call someone who's religious with no God other than a soft spoken prayer whispered on the end of a cigarette? I'm searching for a word under tongue still sour from communion. What do you call a person who's religious with no one listening other than a child in a home with parents too busy to listen to every little thing, now an orphan with no words? I'm searching for a word, hands raw from praying. What do you call someone who's religious without a God, anything other than abandoned? I'm searching for a word on blood-stained knees, too many unanswered prayers in pews, in hospitals, in oncology units. What do you call someone who's religious without a God? I'd like to know what to call myself and where to kneel for my next confessional. This second one is called Kneeling. I used to be super religious back in the day. I want God on his knees at an altar before me while I sit adjacent to the tabernacle of my body and blood under lock and key, which is simply made out of coffee and cigarettes. I want God on his knees praying an Our Daughter prayer where he tells me his sins of forgottenness, him the trespasser, him the debtor. I want him to apologize to me, to my mother, to my father, a congregation of 4 now too. I want God on his knees, and I want him to apologize to me where I was baptized in hospice room after hospice room, and I can make the sign of the cross from the residue of morphine on his forehead. I want him to be present while I watched them die, while gasps turned to breath, turned to nothingness, where he should have been there. I want God on his knees praying for forgiveness in a world that isn't getting better with the audacity that I'm supposed to pray to him. I want God to pray to me for taking care of the sick, for the dying like he was supposed to. I want God on his knees where he sees where he didn't do his job, and I can tell him that there's no reconciliation for him, and I don't want any for my blasphemy either. This one is a newer poem that I wrote a few days ago. This one's called Volume Up. I miss having uncomplicated feelings with everything. I want God to be something I either believe in or I don't. Not anger turned to apathy. Prayers are forgotten as pews empty. What turned into weekly church attendee. Now I haven't been to church in almost 5 years. Deacon now distant. I miss having an uncomplicated feeling with everything. I want poetry to be art again, to feel like a comfort, be something that drives me, not empty, not a reminder that all I have to share is grief. And I don't like admitting that I buried my voice with my mother. I miss having uncomplicated feelings with everything. I want everything to not be so wrapped in grief. I want to scrub it from my vocal cords, but instead I remove myself from microphones, from pulpits, from church pews, from every facet that turned the volume up on my voice because I wish I had something new to talk about. I wish my voice was loud and recovered and not one that still knows freshness of eulogies. This next one is called Beige Walls. I wake up in a cold sweat and I don't feel like I left the hospice room. Beige walls from home to apartment to hospice room. And I'm always sitting in a goddamn room with beige walls and I feel like she's still actively dying. I own my mother's old clock. Dead furniture, polish feels rotting. I wash my hands repeatedly as if morphine is still sticky on my hands. Every washcloth is thrown out as if I used it to wash the thrush away. Her cat started sleeping with me, but I'll never be their mom, even if I've owned them longer now. I still think about the door dashing of coffees and takeout, not knowing what the outside for 3 weeks feels like for just cigarette breaks and greeting nurses' aides. I miss holding her hand before it got cold, before it started to track the modeling of her skin, before gasping and rattling that lasted a week just turned to nothing. I want grief to be such less complicated. I want it to be sad and not nightmares. I want her to have died and stay dead, not be dying. And I want to wash my hands and still not feel like I have morphine on them. This next one is called Settling on Surviving. This is another one that is kind of newer. I'm almost 30 years old, drowning under the weight of every breaking news headline, hoping I can get a second job, master's degree irrelevant as soon as the election hit. What was the whole fucking point of going back to college in the first place? I'm almost 30 years old, married with a house, and I don't want anyone to think that I pulled myself up from my bootstraps. Our house was bought with dead mom money. We are broke, not the brokest. How broken a place to live that your mother dying is what saves you from homelessness, and the fact that we consider ourselves still lucky. I'm almost 30 years old, and our current goal is simply to not be the brokest. Our current goal is to not be hate crime, simply just surviving. Our heart breaks daily over news headlines, over prices, over every medical bill that comes through. My wife and I sat at a long red light, and I told her that we'd have to put off adopting or fostering children for another 4 years if they'd even let us adopt in 4 years. We're more likely to have a roommate than a child. Maybe that was the whole point of this poem, of the wishing of motherhood hidden under everything else that needs our attention first, and that another Mother's Day will pass where two women who wished for a family just settle on surviving. And then this is my last poem, and one that I wrote because it was inspired by Stacy. So I don't know, I like reading this poem. This one's called Gold Throat. Where is talent? What if it's not something you're born with? What if it's birthed from a womb that couldn't nurture it, from the bearing of rawness from the clenching of jaws? And what if poetry is not something to create, but to capture, to hold it down and put it on a page, to encapsulate it? I was told my poetry is not polished, it's rough like hands of people who work. My poetry is one of unearthing gravesides as I unbury relatives so you can see them. I've heard polished poetry is boring. I didn't have time to polish my grief in between the measuring of morphine doses for a dying mother and then again for a dying father. I only had the rawness of words. I write poetry for those who know it doesn't get better, it gets different, and that's okay. If someone tells me there's a silver lining, I hope it's one made of wire so I can strangle you with it. A woman told me I'm a woman with gold in her throat, and I wonder if that's why I'm always choking. I choke on every fucking word. Did I even have a lisp, or maybe I simply speak in stanzas? I'm a woman with unrefined gold in her throat. I'm not polished, no, I'm accessible. So that you get the message that it's okay that grief won't go away. It doesn't get better, it gets different, and there's still company for the living. There's still gold to be found. Thank you so much, everyone.
Mad thunderous applause for this poet, please.
Woo!
Roses.
Gigi, we missed you.
Amazing.
DJ, I've never heard you before, but you are a badass broad. I dig you. I dig you a lot. Thank you so much.
Honey, it has been way, way too long. You got to come play with us more often. You have to come play with the world more often. Okay, coming up. This is actually someone who I know this is her first invitational for sure. And it has been way too long since anybody has heard from her. Please give it up one time for Carolyn L. Robinson. Give it up, y'all.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here, but I'm super sleepy right now because I worked last night and I haven't been asleep yet. So I'm going to cut out early on you guys, and I'm apologizing now. But I wanted to, first of all, thank you, Stacy, for the invitation. And I'm just listening to you guys. I already feel like, oh my God. Excellent, excellent work. I'm going to do a couple of pieces from a project I'm working on now. The poems are along the lines of, I studied Lucille Clifton's work last year. I took three different workshops, all working on writing more succinct, short poems. And it's very difficult for me because I'm very wordy and I always write long pieces if anybody has read any of my work. So writing shorter poems was very difficult. Am I coming through okay? Because I look like I'm delayed a little. Okay, on my end. So I'm just gonna jump right into it. These first poems, they're all pieces that are within the 50 to 75 word range. And the first one is called My Daddy's Grave. I never went to see where my daddy was buried. Didn't see no reason to. Who needs to see a plaque in the ground to remember a man? Plus, I didn't want nobody to catch me dancing there. Graveyards are supposed to be a solemn place. And I knew I'd hear music playing loud enough to make me want to twist. That's the first piece. So the object of writing poems like that was to find something that's very deep and then talk about it in a way that, you know, is different than how you normally would write a poem, keeping in mind to keep it short. So I'm not always good at writing short pieces, but this is a piece called After the Storm. When the rain ends, and the sky glows a pink fire haze. The porch dwellers turn ready mice and scurry back into their tiny homes. But not us. We sit just a little while longer. We stay until we are lit by the moon. Short. Short and sweet. Okay. The next piece is called Expectations. I wonder what it must be like to be a man, to carry the world on your shoulders, to feel something always dangling between your legs. Must get burdensome, don't you think? Up top and down below. Blood always running to and fro, always having to decide which way to go. Must get real complicated sometimes. I'm happy I was born a woman with no expectations to be strong at all. I just show up and move the world. Show up and surprise them. The same way a weak man do. Okay, this piece is called Naima. Naima ain't never been a pretty girl, but beauty is in the eye of the beholder. So when Stanley Jackson asked me if I think she cute, well, I just stay real quiet and I stare off into the clouds like I can't even hear him. I don't say a word, 'cause I see his eyes beholding her like she is a piece of art. And I figure my silence be just the thing to keep her priceless in his eyes. And this is my last piece. This is not part of that project, but I wanted to do something just for all these amazing poets. And so it's called A Poem for the Poet. For the past few years, I have watched you take words and twist them, wield them, even use them as shields. You have blended them together like a makeup artist sculpts and contours with his brushes. This is the same masterful way you use your pen. You are the consummate artist, creator of all things art driven, language approved. Words are your thing, and they rise up to meet you like David standing before Goliath. You have dipped every single syllable in rich, dark chocolate, dangled them on sticks for every single one of us to pluck from the gooey garden and weave lit sweetly, reverently. All these immaculate words strung together in sweet soliloquy or prose or free verse. We have watched the masters at work. We have been in the womb, seen the embryo before anyone ever knew it was a boy or a girl, nursed at the teat of dark depression, gloried at the bouts of sheer exhilaration. We've cried real tears when the honesty spoke too loud, and we uttered a hallelujah with each new poem. The infinite supply of words that rule our universe, words that give life and breath, words that do impossible things, like going to look for tears inside of waterfalls and streams, words that we take comfort in. And look at all the love we have brought to the table. Look at all the amazing times love found its way to our front door. So I say, let the language angels sound their horns. Let them rise up in a sweet crescendo of song. And let every single poet here continue to describe this delicious life with whatever words you choose to hoard in this glorious art form known as the spoken word. That's it for me. I hope you guys enjoyed it.
Add thunderous applause, you all. Throw this lady her roses. I love,
That was so
especially the first one.
wonderful.
Love that.
Woo! Beautiful.
Absolutely delightful.
Thank
Wonderful.
you so much for that.
In an interesting turn of events, I am now the one who gets to introduce our last but not least poet. I just wanted to take a moment and have us all appreciate who brought us here and who brings us here year after year. And with like every, I don't know, every community, and the fact that we all here at Tesoro all joined this space because we wanted safeness and community and to love and share poetry. And so I just wanted to introduce the woman that we have to owe this to, an amazing poet in person. And I lucky to get to call her my friend, Stacy Dyson. Show her some love, everyone.
Thank you, darling. I do appreciate that. Before I even get started, y'all open up your mics, give yourselves a mad round of applause. You all are here because you're all always on your A game, but you kind of went a level above today. So thank you.
Woo! So what happens when you let us loose?
Okay, so the pieces that I'm going to do today are spanning actually over the last 3 years. I keep saying I've got a third book coming, and I do, but it's coming kind of the way, the Lord is coming back. It will happen eventually. The first one, actually, I rarely have the time or the inclination to go to workshops, but I was wandering through one day and decided to drop in on one of Ray Jane's. And for the first and only time, probably in the last 20, 25 years, I wrote a piece that was prompted by one of the workshop prompts. Please do not let the aliens come disguised as Black women. Because if TV is all they've studied, then they be dragging fake nail, fake hairs, and loud, yes, queens, interruptions in normal or polite conversations, or just be loud and ignorant for no good reason. If we need to be that way, we always have a good reason. They will say they've studied history and x-rays so they know what we are composed of, but you can't x-ray pain or burden. There is not enough history to tell the truth of how we're daily betrayed by a country we helped build, still maintain, and are tasked with saving on the regular. Please don't let them come in as Black women. They won't know where the finger snaps go right, where the laughing and heartache go right, where the burden of learning to be, to know, to take care of go right. Let them come back as something innocuous or innocent. We are neither of those. Let them come back non-prepared and non-threat. We are neither of those. Let them come ready to marvel and wanna and fear not just a little. The only folks on the planet who truly understand what surviving on this planet really means. And following that one. Now, I love to do this piece when my singing voice is working. Y'all pray hard for me because it's been a little lately. Let me hold you tight, if only for one night. Let me keep you near to ease away the fear. It would be so nice if only for one night. I send you music because I cannot touch you yet. I'm good, but I'm not that good. My lips cannot reach yours across a continent. My tongue cannot explore every inch of that, ooh, baby, make me ache body from however many miles away, but I can send music, send a seduction, message, a massage. It serves to bank a fire that cannot be extinguished. Again, sugar, don't get me wrong. I'm very, very good, but not that good. I cannot dampen an ardor that has grown from the moment I heard my language leave your mouth. That poet's tongue beguiles me, touches me when you cannot, where you haven't yet. But you will. Of that I have no doubt. I won't tell a soul. No one has to know. If you want to be totally discreet, I'll be at your side, if only for one night. I send you music because watching your body move for 24 hours would be too exhausting and too exciting and ultimately not satisfying enough for my hunger, because the sound that interests, intoxicates us is my way of saying anytime you have time, we can keep time. Until I'm free to catch your rhythm with my hands, I search archives for songs that make my throat and heart and body ache, mostly for you. The ache is overdue and pleasurable. I don't want it to go away. You are overdue and pleasurable. I don't want you to go away. I hope I've made that clear. I send you music because I can't summon you like a wish. But for now, I have to treat you like one charming one. You disturb me in all the right ways. Please, keep moving to the music I send you. Fingers and smile, and soon I can stop wearing my fingers on my laptop keys and let them dance all over your beautiful, beckoning light. And for the very last one, before I got to New Mexico, I had thought to move to El Paso, Texas. And I was ready to go. I was prepped. And then, and then, well, I'm not moving to Texas anymore. I know it's all I've talked about for months. Don't get me wrong. I was seriously thrilled when my friend gifted me an RV. I had to move, didn't want to fly because, COVID and people generally nasty, and me being non-trusting and suspicious of folks' personal hygiene. Anyway, I was thrilled. Had called my nephews who live in Odessa. Your auntie is coming down. Why don't y'all come up and get me? We can make up for some lost time, lost years. It was the paperwork holding us up. The tags and plates came, it all started to be real. And then it was just waiting for the title. I did the research. Everybody said, well, yeah, you can drive without it as long as it's recorded somewhere. And I had the receipt. I knew that electronically it was on file, it existed, but I needed it in my hand. I had to have that square, small piece of paper in my hand because I had two young Black men coming to drive me into Texas. And I did not feel sure or safe without that little small piece of paper in my hands. There was some holdup, some glitch. It kept getting delayed. And I was starting to get eaten up with this dread, this fear taking over all of my chest when I said, oh, yes, my nephews are coming to drive me there. My two young Black nephews were coming to drive me there. I sounded brave, but I would put down the phone or get off the chat and my hands would shake. I could feel the quiver in my voice. I kept having to wipe tears off my face and clothes because my two young Black nephews were coming to drive me into Texas in an RV with shiny new plates and tags. Recently gifted me. Legalities and civil rights never seemed to make a difference down there, unless it's on the side of the police or old vindictive white men, or laws that should have been off the books decades ago, should never have existed decades ago. And I had two young Black men driving a newly titled RV, and their aunt, who was old enough to remember girls being blown up in Sunday school, and why strange fruit is still a necessary bitter reminder, sung in mother's tears and defiant desperation, and folks who died while engaged in the unholy commission of being while Black. The delay was longer than expected. That's when I started having nightmares. My boys, yes, they're grown, but they will always be my boys. Breezing through a dust blue Texas night, stars showering down the way they do in the panhandle sometimes, laughing, listening to their granddad's favorite Motown and Silk Sonic. Then the cop blows out of nowhere, steps off his bike, puts his hand on his holster because these are two young Black men in a newly gifted RV, and it's a long, lonely highway, and he is bored, or maybe they passed a stop sign a little too soon, or maybe he hasn't made his quota for the night, or maybe just because they are two young Black men laughing and not caring where they are, except to come get me where I wanted to go. He wants the paperwork. License, registration. He sees the names on the papers isn't theirs, tells them to step out. They're smart. They've been trained the way we have to train our children these days with the police. They step, they are quiet, they do not talk back or give attitude. But I know my boys, and their eyes are angry and their mouths and throats are tight, and they are swallowing humiliation and remembering the story I told them about their granddad being pulled over with me in the car, and that title. That title is shaking in their hands along with the license and registration, and the cop takes their angry eyes and tight mouths as a threat. At least that is what he will say in court, that he feared for his life, and they will face down on that lonely highway, maybe still alive, maybe not. I should have been happy. But I got sick when the paperwork came through. I felt as if I would be handing them a death warrant, and I could not let a piece of paper kill my boys. Could not let some small square piece of paper be the thing that let some cop murder my two young Black men under a Texas sky. I've been a lot of things to my guys. I would not be the messenger of the thing that might get them killed. And I know you're saying that's ridiculous or that they could have been stopped anywhere, but right now, Texas is a place where murdered children's cries are still echoing in school chambers, in school corridors, where the destiny of a woman's freedom to her body is not a recognized fact, where there are still sundown towns and a need for the new Green Book, and two young Black men singing Motown and Silk Sonic under a star-rushed sky is an invitation to death. I couldn't do it. I can't. I can't do it. Don't get me wrong. I am so grateful for the gift. The RV can be rented or lived in if times get tougher. I still haven't touched the title or the envelope it came in. It hurts. It hurts to touch it. Feels a little too heavy in my hand. I will fly to see my boys. And the only thing in my hands will be their favorite cookies and heartfelt invitation to come see me. The nightmares have stopped. My boys are still in Odessa. And me, well, I'm not moving to Texas anymore.
Woo! I guess I'll say, woo! That was fantastic. Lovely storytelling.
God damn. Wow.
Oh my goodness. Interestingly enough, I lost the RV shortly after, so not an issue anymore, but still.
I don't
Everyone,
have
thank you
words to
so
say what's in
much.
my heart, Stacy. I don't have words to say what's in my heart.
You know what, darling, just write it to me. Sing it to me. Y'all, thank you so much for coming here, for being here, for, in my case, because it's thundering and lightning and everything else here, literally opening the sky with all this fire. I cannot tell you how much I appreciate it. For those of you who are visiting us, as I say, Tesoro owns every single day of every month of every year, but we especially own every Sunday in May. So we'll be back next week, same time, with a totally different lineup of fire singers. If you need more information or want to come again, just go to www.firesingers.com and follow the directions. We'll see you next week. Love you all. Give yourself a mad round of applause.
Hold on, cause
Hold on.
so I got here late. My apologies. I got to hear from Kelly to you, and some of you I have not encountered before, but you are all mighty. You are all powerful in your words. But Stacy, that last piece, because I am a Texas resident, I do have a Black son, that touched me in ways you just don't know, because that's what I go through every time he leaves home. And I'm not sure if he's going to make it back. So thank you for that. I love y'all.
We love you too, honey. And again, hope to see you guys back this time next week. I would say stay out of trouble, but there's not a Tesoro woman alive who knows how to do that. So
I'm
I
an
will
angel.
simply,
I'm an angel.
yeah. So I will simply tell you all the way I say goodbye to most of our audiences. Don't know what time zone you're in, don't know whether you're in the evening or still in the afternoon, don't know what continent, what country, but wherever you are, please take care of yourselves, take it light, and we will most assuredly see you round the way. Love you all. Bye-bye.